before she can congratulate her daughter about her engagement, she needs to find out who the boy is and maybe unravel the secret that she's kept from her family for so many years. So she sets up a meeting with her daughter, not a meeting, but a Sunday afternoon lunch, to bring the fiancé over, and that's on a Sunday afternoon. So when she sees and meets the fiancé, it might mean that they might have to bury her that day. So that's what the story is about. The reader will leave the reader anticipating what's going to happen, and the reader might have to come to their own conclusion at the end of the reading. So it's a very interesting read, I have to say.
Which is what you did with all the stories.
Correct.
you left us thinking about what's next for each story.
Yes.
That was deliberate.
It was very deliberate.
Why? Are you so mean?
I didn't want to feed the readers this time. I've noticed that most stories, novels I read, very conclusive. You know, that's it, the end. And that's what I did with Thread of Gold Beads for the most part. But this time around, I wanted to do something different. I wanted the reader to be in charge of the stories. I wanted them to take charge and decide for themselves how they wanted the stories to end.
You weren't concerned that some readers, will be very upset. It's like watching a movie, no. And then the movie is inconclusive, and you're wondering, oh my goodness, why?
Oh no, they're not going to get upset. They're going to feel empowered that they can go to bed knowing this is how I think it ended.
They can finish the story.
They can finish the story.
Which is your favorite story here?
That's hard.
You must have a soft spot for a story here.
I do. The Hunchback, the very last one.
The Hunchback.
That's the longest story.
Why?
It was actually supposed to be a novella, but that didn't work out.
So?
It wasn't long enough. It was really kind of loosely based on my trip to Makoko community on the island mainland area, over Third Mainland Bridge. I started writing the story actually before I visited the community, because I just done some research on communities built on water. And I'd read the story about the 72-hour vacate notice that they had and the things that went on there. So it caught my attention. So that's how I started researching. And when I came home in 2014, I actually visited the community as well. And I got to know their plight, where most of them are displaced people that came to live on that waterlogged community as well. So I wanted to just speak to how they live, how they survive, the things that they've gone through as a community, and individually what they as individuals have gone through, why they moved to the community. And I told this through the eyes of Shadi, a young girl there. If you noticed, anybody that's read the book, most of the stories were told through the eyes of the villain, the person that has done something bad. And what I was trying to say through the stories is that people sometimes do bad things for good reasons. We need to step back a minute, take a closer look, peel back the layers, and try and find out what's really going on. Don't let's be quick to jump to judgments. And that way things will be easier for all of us as a society, because as a society we're going through so many things. We need to give each other some kind of slack and be patient and be more understanding of each other's plight. We never know what each person is going through.
That's very deep. Very deep. Yeah. Now, published in Nigeria, right?
Correct.
Did your first novel encourage you to write this? Let me explain the context of my question. A lot of writers in Nigeria write, and they don't get to sell so many copies. There's always that constant complaint, Nigerians don't read much, and so what happened when you wrote your first novel? How come you got encouraged to write this?
I was encouraged. I got a lot of great feedback. People are still buying the book, Thread of Gold Beads. And it was very, very encouraging. Great feedback, great reviews. That made me want to write some more, because people, even if you didn't want to write, like, Nike, when is your next book coming out? This cannot be your only book. Is there a part 2 to Thread? I'm like, there's no part 2 to Thread of Gold Beads.
There are other books.
There are other things that in my brain that I want to write. But yes, it was a great encouragement to keep writing.
Recently, I interviewed Igoni Barrett, the author of Black Ass. He said something that got me thinking for a long time. Last year, September, October, he published Black Ass in Nigeria. And then he did the same in America in March, thereabouts. Now, between the time he published Black Ass in Nigeria, October last year or so, and now, it sold only about 400 copies. Between the time he published in March in the US. It sold about 11,000 copies in the US. And that got me thinking. You live in the US, right?
Yes.
Why is that so? Why has it sold only about 400 copies in Nigeria and about 11,000 copies in the US?
I can't speak to Nigeria.
You can't?
I can't speak to what's going on, but I do know that overseas it's a lot of promotion. The publishing companies do a lot of work to get the books out there.
So for you, it's not about the reading culture. It's more about the work done in promoting the books.
That too, the reading culture is there. But I've been in Nigeria for a while now, and I've noticed that the reading culture it's vibrant now.
It's not as bad as people.
It's not as bad as people think. It's getting the book in people. If you don't know of something, you won't go for it. You won't know it's there. So when you put it out there, people will hear of it constantly. It will be in their minds. When they're like, I have heard about that. Marketing in America is solid. They're putting it in your face all the time. It's a science. And once we get a hang of it in Nigeria, it will just improve, right?
Okay. Well done. Thank you very much. I'm going to ask you to read something. Pick anywhere you like, anywhere you enjoy, and just read for us.
Sure. Let me get my glasses. I'm going to read Our Wife, page 67. She arrived on a freezing November evening. Flights had been delayed due to the icy conditions on the East Coast. Tagbo fidgeted in his seat, waiting with the other occupants of Silver Hill apartment complex for Alhaji, his childhood friend, to arrive. He pulled back the crooked blinds every few minutes, hoping to see his friend's red taxi cab pull into its reserved spot. When it eventually did, the residents stretched their necks to catch a glimpse of the couple. How does she look? Is she as pretty as her picture? Shh, be quiet. They could hear the footsteps of the two echoing in the stairway as they made their way up to Alhaji's apartment on the second floor where they waited. Unable to bear the suspense any longer, Tagbo sprang to his feet and headed to the edge of the stairs. Looking down the stairway, he shouted, "Welcome, my good friend." "My dear friend, I hope we haven't kept you too long." Alhaji's voice boomed through the 3-level apartment complex. "Come, meet Fausa." Fausa appeared at the top of the stairs, and Tagbo held his breath when he saw how beautiful she was. Petite, with long dark hair plaited into cornrows on the top of her head, which accentuated her high cheekbones and big brown eyes. She wore a black winter coat that fit her curvy figure. A Chanel bag dangled from her manicured hand. It did not look like a knockoff. "Hi," she said. Her soft voice tickled Tagbo like feathers on the back of his neck. "Our wife," Tagbo shouted and shook her hand, unable to say more. Alhaji took her hand and stepped into his apartment. He looked at the group crowded at the doorway with pride, as though he had just won a coveted prize. "Thank you for coming out to celebrate with me and my wife on such a cold night," Alhaji said. "Please, let us have a good time." The music playing in the background was cranked up to a high volume as Tagbo distributed beer and soda to the guests. Falsat walked alongside her husband and greeted each person as she was introduced. When she went to use the toilet, Tagbo cornered Alhaji behind the food table. "But Alhaji, you've not been honest with me," Tagbo said, holding up a chicken drumstick with one hand and a beer can in the other. "You did not tell me your wife was this young. How old is she?" "But I told you, my friend," Alhaji protested, laughing. "My Falsat is 26.
Okay. Thank you very much, Nike.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure to have you on the
Same
channel.
here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.